Welcome to the 11th episode of A Change is a Chance. I'm Ryan Lowe, and my goal is to educate my listeners, especially young ones, on the issues in this world by interviewing different experts. As the months go by, it also becomes more urgent that we slow down global warming and do what we can to save our environment. One of these problems is waste. Just look around. Freeways, parks, neighborhoods, and parking lots. You'll always find trash on the ground, many made of plastic. Though we can't get every person in the world to stop littering or stop using plastic, we can make a difference by doing so ourselves and also encouraging people to do the same by teaching them why. That's exactly what my guest today will talk about. I am excited to introduce my two guests, Miss Rebecca Mattos and Mr. Hideki from Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii. Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii is an amazing nonprofit that cleans up the beautiful shores of Hawaii and so much more. SCH does weekly volunteer programs, lead cleanups, and work on the restoration of native Hawaiian aquaculture projects. They also collect and analyze data, assist with restoration of ancient native fish ponds, and removal of invasive species. It is really incredible, and through my plastic research, I became intrigued. Hello, Miss Matos and Mr. Hideki. Thanks for joining us, and I hope you're doing very well.
Aloha! We're awesome. Thank you so much for having us.
I'm extremely excited to interview you because cleaning and reducing plastic is how I entered the world of change making in the first place. I saw a picture of a turtle that was conformed to the shape of the plastic soda can rings. I think I was in second grade, and it definitely made a huge impact on me. Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii caught my attention on Instagram about a year ago. I have been learning and following everything you've been doing and how much the community has grown in the last year. Congratulations!
Thank you.
So, how did each of you get involved with Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii? Could you tell the listeners a little bit about it and some of your experiences?
Sure. I've been involved with the organization since 2016. I grew up actually close to you, right in the Bay Area, and I was on vacation with my family in Maui, and I wanted to do something to help out. So I looked up events that were happening around the island while I was there, and I saw that there was a beach cleanup happening. And so I reached out and I said, sure, come join us. And so when I went to that beach cleanup, I was shocked. I didn't realize how much plastic was on the beaches, and just the amount of community support and volunteers that day really changed my perspective and made me want to get more involved. So I decided to move to Hawaii in 2017 and start volunteering more with the organization. What about you, Hideki?
So yeah, I moved here about 7 years ago, 8 years ago from Florida, and I've never seen these microplastics on the beach of Florida. But first time I joined a beach cleanup here, which was about 8 years ago, it just blew me away. It was just nothing I have never ever seen, and which I just stood there and I'm like, wow, this gotta change, and it just struck me, and that's how I got involved. And I'm here with Rebecca and trying to educate Keiki and try to make a better future.
Well, out of what I've learned about the two of you, SCH is very lucky to have you on their team.
Thank
Awesome.
you.
In the project, Ciggy Butt Blitz, you removed 14,205 cigarette butts from Oahu coastlines in an incredible 10 days. In the story about the Blitz, Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii uses the butts to make surfboards, which is amazing. Can you tell us more about how the campaign came about, and if those cigarettes were left there, what would that do to the environment?
Yeah, so that actually came from some partners of ours who have their own nonprofit called the Cigarette Surfboards. And they're just two awesome surfer guys that wanted to do something to give back. They noticed there was a big problem with cigarette butts on beaches. So Taylor is the one who reached out from the cigarette surfboards and asked if we would be willing to help out with collecting 10,000 cigarette butts for them so they could design some new boards. So they'd actually been to one of our cleanups the year before and brought some of the prototypes, some of the surfboards with them. So we got to see what they look like. And they're absolutely beautiful, even though they're made of this really destructive and toxic material. So yeah, cigarette butts, if people don't know already, they're made of plastic. So the filters, the end of the cigarette is made of plastic. So that means it's going to stay in the environment for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And most people throw them on the ground thinking probably that they'll just disintegrate or go away, but they actually, because there's so many toxic chemicals in cigarettes, they go into the ground, they get into the water, and then animals can eat them and get really, really sick. So it's a really good thing that we're able to use that challenge to sort of motivate so many people to pick them up, because it's kind of looked at as it's a disgusting thing. But if you can safely remove them and then make a beautiful surfboard that's usable, right? Jack Johnson wrote them, who's a famous singer from Hawaii. You know, that's a really good, that's a really good outcome.
Yeah, I mean, 14,000.
Yeah.
In 10 days, that's a scary number, you know. And we got to show people, see, hey, this is that's every day we see these cigarette butts on the beach. We got to do something about it. And raising awareness is one of the biggest proactive solutions. That we can educate people.
Another interesting thing is smoking on the beaches is actually illegal in Hawaii. So you would think that with it being illegal, there wouldn't be that many cigarette butts, but that just shows you how much more work needs to be done still.
And the Maui students made that happen. They got together and talked to the policymakers and say, hey, you got to stop this. And they made it as a law that you cannot smoke on the beach. So the younger generation stood up,
Yeah.
It was nice to see.
It's such a joy to see everyone come together and do something truly amazing. While Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii cleans up the many beaches and coastlines all over Oahu, you also work on aquaculture and agriculture projects. I learned the word aquaculture from Ms. Mattos' LinkedIn page and didn't know what it meant. Can you please explain the word and tell us about some projects relating to it?
Sure. So aquaculture is similar to agriculture, if you've heard of agriculture, but it means that you're working with plants and fish in the water to help raise them for food, so to help feed people and then also help restore ecosystems. So Hawaii is a perfect example of that. They have a system of ancient fish ponds going back 100 or thousands of years. So if you think about the ocean and the bay, like the Bay Area, to build a rock wall around a part of the bay, they did that so it kind of surrounds fish, and then they make little openings in the rock with a gate. So if you have a gate, and so little fish can swim in the gate, and then they feed them and help them grow really big, and then if they're small, they can swim back out to the ocean. So a really smart way that the Hawaiians invented to be able to feed communities, not only for their generation, but for 7 generations. So one of the projects that I got to work on when I first moved here was restoring a fish pond that's 800 years old on the east side of Oahu, called Heia. It's the fish pond's Hawaiian name is Pai Pai o Heia, and it's an amazing place. So we got to help restore the rock wall. So sometimes the stones are made from lava rock. We got to help remove invasive species like seaweed and mangroves, and really help make it functioning again so it can actually feed the community. Some good things to say too.
Well, yeah, totally. the aquaculture, like us helping do the fish and have that relationship, the cycle. So the when the fish poops, that becomes a good nutrients for the plants in water, and sometimes the nutrient comes from the river or the spring, and it just creates this balance, this amazing balance of life, and that's what we're trying to create that environment or help that relationship.
Because I know some of the questions we'll talk about in a second are more with plastic pollution, but one of the biggest problems of plastic pollution in Hawaii, at least, comes from overfishing. And overfishing is kind of the opposite of aquaculture. People just take more than they need, and they use plastic between the net, and that creates a huge imbalance of the ocean. So aquaculture is the opposite, where it's really trying to work with the native fish and plants and make a balanced system where you're only taking what you need.
Are there any ongoing aquaculture projects within SCH right now?
We've been working at a fish pond up in Kahana Bay to restore it. Yes, so Hideki and I volunteer weekly on Sundays up at Kahana, and we've been making really great progress on the fish pond up there. So,
and every time you clean a stream, you're helping the aquaculture as well, because when you clean the upstream, you also clean the downstream as well.
Balance within aquaculture seems very interesting, and I can't wait to volunteer there.
Yeah, you'll love it.
I've heard about marine debris, but just like aquaculture, I've never known what it is. What is marine debris, and what can it do to the environment? How do you analyze and learn from it?
So we have some great examples. Yeah, so as we were talking about aquaculture and farming, this is some really common. Do you want to hold up the spacers? These are some really common items we find that are results of that overfishing. So this is a hagfish trap, and it's used to trap fish so they can swim in this big opening, and then they get stuck. And what happens is they get hagfish get stressed out, and they make a slime. So their whole body produces a whole ton of slime, and fishermen and different people collect that in things like makeup or different products. But then this gets left behind in the ocean, and it's made of plastic, so it doesn't break down, it doesn't go away, and we find thousands of these at our beach cleanups every year. And also Hideki has another big one.
So this is called the oyster spacer. So when you farm oysters, this is what they use. So they put oysters in between these spacers, so that the oysters by itself doesn't get stuck together. So it's easier for them to cultivate. But when they cultivate the harvest, the oysters, they just cut the end of the rope, and it just slits right off and goes into the ocean. And we find these every day at the beach. And I gotta say, we collected maybe close to a million. Yeah, it's a big problem.
Imagine it looks kind of like a big gulp straw if you had a big gulp Slurpee. But yeah, they're also made of plastic, and they're very harmful because they just get left in the ocean. And a lot of this oyster farming, it used to be done in hagfish in Korea, but there is so much that now it's done in the Pacific Northwest. So places like Washington and Oregon State, but it will travel that far to Hawaii because there's so much of it in the ocean and because of the currents.
See, back then, before the plastic, they used to use this bamboo. So that when it went away, it got away into the ocean. Was able to biodegrade.
And another big one with overfishing is these ghost nets. So these are used by fishermen. Yeah, these you probably see. These create a huge threat to wildlife because they're swimming and they get stuck. So once they get stuck, it's hard to get untangled. And we find also hundreds of these every year that are big nets, all mixed together and weigh thousands of pounds. So this is a huge part of our work, is getting these off of the ocean and off of the beaches and out of the ocean, because they're so harmful. And nets are also made of plastic, so they not only don't go, they have these little tiny fibers that will break off and that also get into our water system and our streams and our air, and so those are causing a lot of harm.
Well, I find it interesting that we as humans think that we can kill, cultivate, and trap whatever we want. But it's good to know that there are humans, like you two, working to stop that.
Thank you.
Another amazing program from Sustainable Coastlines Hawaii is the Clean Beaches Start at Home project. I am particularly interested in this program because we're all stuck at home right now, so this is the best way for us to help the environment. The four main steps shown on the project are to sign the pledge, participate in challenges, get schooled, and donate. Can you please tell us all about it and a few simple challenges on Instagram for any listeners who would want to try?
Oh, sure. So we say clean beaches starts at home. That means if we reduce or refuse to use disposable plastics every day from our everyday life, it can clean our beaches. And even, let's say I live in Hawaii, and I stop using the disposable plastics. That means I can clean your beach across the Pacific, right? Because ocean connects everything together.
Wow. So, what about sale challenges on Instagram? Like, I feel like I would love to do that too.
Yeah, so we're actually going to have a new one coming up soon where we're going to encourage people to take a reusable jar. So maybe when you're done cooking pasta or anything you use a jar or container for, and fill it with microplastics. So if you can go to the or collect plastic and see how many you can fit in the jar. So that's an interesting way to see how much we're going to use it to try to calculate how much plastic you're removing from the beach, because those little tiny pieces, they can be really hard to count. This is kind of a jar. This is a gyre jar, so this is what it looks like in the ocean when plastic moves around. And this is another activity you could do as a challenge, is fill a jar with water and then put pieces of plastic in it, and you can see actually a mini ocean gyre. So this is what it looks like when plastic is in the ocean, and it reminds you how important it is at home to stop using plastic as much as possible. We also have petitions you can sign and artwork. So we really encourage people to make things like love letters to the sea, and even murals, and post them for us to share. And then there's something called a brand audit too, so you can actually track at home for a week how much plastic you're using and the companies that make that plastic. And the point of that is to show that, yes, we as consumers, we need to buy less plastic, but also these companies who are making so much plastic have a responsibility, and they need to come up with alternative packaging. So they need to stop. Chips are a great example, because I would say 99.9% of chips that you buy are wrapped in plastic, but there's no alternative, right? You can't really buy a bamboo bag of chips or something like that. So that helps us as consumers put pressure on the companies, saying, hey, we're tired of this, we want another option, because this plastic is ending up in our environment and it's going to last forever and it's causing a lot of harm.
Well, right after this, I'm going to sign the pledge and do some challenges and educate everyone I know.
Yeah!
Like many people, I also love Hawaii. I love the food, the weather, the beaches. One thing that stood out for me was the deterioration of beaches. The last time I was at Lidgate Beach in Kauai, the water was filled with trash. So were the sandy areas, and there were no more fish. Very different from a few years before that. What has been the impact of tourism on Hawaii coastlines? All the boat tours and beach overcrowding can't be good.
Hawaii actually has 10, before COVID, I should say, 10 million visitors a year. So the population, at least on Oahu, is a little over a million. So if you think about that, that's about 10 times as many people that live here come to visit every year. So that can create a lot of trash. And because we live on an island, most of the time our trash gets sent to a place called H Power and they burn it. So when you burn trash and plastic, another thing that hopefully your listeners can learn today, if they didn't already know, is that plastic is made of oil. So it's made of fossil fuel, so oil and gas. So when you burn oil, it's not good for the air or for the environment. So when tourists come and visit, they do, everybody has to use food and drink water and all these things. So it can create a lot of trash. And if all of that's getting burned, it's not a good thing. And then on the beaches, sometimes things get left behind. And we really need to develop a better system and encourage people. We have something we've started. Sustainable Coastlines didn't start it, but another organization we work with called Surfrider started ocean-friendly restaurants. I'll let Hideki talk about those.
So
they're really cool.
ocean-friendly restaurants. If you go out any plastic utensils, like the disposable utensils, so like that, you don't have to always make it to go. You can sit down and eat and dine in. So they'll give you a silverwares, and it's a very ocean friendly. Yeah. So they don't create. They try not to create. They minimize the trash.
And another exciting thing with that is last year the youth, so your age youth, started a huge campaign called Bill 40. Well, it was already started, but they helped pass it. So Bill 40 stops single-use plastic use in Oahu. So you go to restaurants when visitors come to the island. The restaurants now have to provide alternatives. So no more styrofoam, no more plastic containers, no more plastic forks. So that's actually signed into law. And it's going to be really, really good for the visitors and tourists to be able to really think about the impact of what they're using and have the alternative available so they don't have to use plastic.
People say that you should learn something every day, but during this conversation, I've learned something new every minute.
Awesome. We're learning too. We're learning new things every day.
I also read that there is now a ban on sunscreen. I am happy to hear that because I noticed the water had oily rings all over. Why was that ban so important?
Yeah, so a lot of sunscreens have, I think it's either 8 or 10 really toxic chemicals. And what happens when those chemicals go into the water is they start to kill the coral reef. And coral reef are animals. They're actually living animals that are so important to our ecosystems because our oceans help us to breathe. So how many breaths is it, Hideki?
So every 2 out of your 3 breaths you take comes from our ocean. Isn't that crazy? Right? The coral reef is like our ocean forest. You see our forest here on land, but coral is our ocean. And animals, they need healthy forests.
Well, then it sure is important for us to protect these coral reefs. So it's a good thing this ban was placed, as it seems to put us in the right direction.
Yeah.
Out of the many amazing programs and projects at SCH, which one do you think is the most successful? Are there currently new projects that you are creating?
Yeah, so we are most well known for our large beach cleanups. So sometimes we've had over 1,000 people show up to one cleanup to help out. It's really incredible to show how many people actually care about this issue and are ready to do something. And that's all ages. People bring their babies, grandparents. It's a really awesome thing to be a part of. And with COVID, we've still been able to do cleanups, just much smaller scale and socially distanced. So it's still possible because you're outside and you can wear masks and be spread apart on the beach. One thing that I'm working on that's pretty exciting is a mobile classroom. So we have a van that we bring to events, and we're trying to make it really, really cool looking and have everything a regular school classroom would have in it, but be able to bring it to the beach, to schools with COVID, and be able to have kids still interact with things. Maybe do a little sand sifting, create a make one of the mini gyre jars.
Fun games.
And think about how we really want people to connect to the ocean so they can be inspired to protect it. What's your favorite? Project?
Oh, don't forget, clean starts at home. Even if you can't go to the beach, you can start it from home.
Well, all of this leads into my next question. Can you describe the amazing feeling of success and unity when you finish a cleanup or see your Instagram inbox fill up with people stating how interested and excited they are to participate and help in a project or cleanup?
Yeah, it's an awesome feeling. I used to help run the Instagram. Now we have an amazing person named Monica. Shout out to Monica, who's running the Instagram. And I know because we have so many people reaching out, we had to create a full-time job for that purpose. So it's pretty cool to see that as a small nonprofit, we've grown so much that we could hire someone to help with the communications. And every day, we have people from all over the world that reach out. Students, adults, community leaders, sponsors, people like Vans. Vans Shoe Company is a really awesome partner of ours. So it's a great feeling to see how many people want to contribute and to give a cause that even if they can't directly be there, they still want to help to make it happen, just like you're doing. So even though hopefully you can be here soon, but you're still taking the opportunity to educate more people because this issue is so important. So it's one of the best feelings, I would say, in the world to see that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Me too.
Well, I hope that whenever you try, that feeling comes back, rushing over you. Finally, how can the listeners help? As I mentioned, we would usually have a 7th grade trip to Hawaii, and being part of a cleanup would be a great experience. But with COVID, everything is up in the air. But what else can we, young listeners, do to help everything you are doing at SCH?
Yeah, so I think
Talking to you.
Yeah.
Talking to you, Ryan. Yeah. See, younger generation, the ocean protectors, young youth power. It's talking to them and getting some energy from it, and that also helps too. And we have a lot of different projects, like the clean house at home. Um, it's nonstop, even if it's open.
Another way that I really encourage young people to get involved, and listeners, even if you're not in Hawaii, is to make some art. So all of us use things every day like plastic and different things. And even if you don't think you're an artist, you can get inspired. If you go to our YouTube page or Instagram, there's some really cool activities and just ways that you can be inspired to make art, because that's something that can translate across generations, across cultures. Art is such a powerful tool. So that's something I found. If people can get creative, it's a really good way to make a difference and feel like you're a part of it, even if you're not right next to the water.
Well, I'll keep doing what I'm doing, maybe do some art too.
Yeah.
And to all my listeners who are young, please continue to do what you're doing and maybe do some art too.
Yeah.
Now, I said that was my last question, but I have a question that's more on the fun side. What is your favorite beach in Oahu?
Oh, that's some hard question. I love all of them. I do. Do I have to pick one?
Yeah.
Okay, then I have to say Waimanalo. It's such a beautiful place. You see like all these small islands off the coast, and the color of the water is just so different than any other beaches. But every beaches has its own beauty. So I love to go. I love to go them all. I love all beaches.
Yeah, I would say Waimanalo is one of my top. The other one is up in Kahuku, which is the northeast side, and it's a wildlife refuge. And it's a very special place. We haven't been able to go up there since COVID started, but it's one of the beaches that gets the most amount of trash, and it's a wildlife refuge. So it also is a sanctuary place where endangered species like Hawaiian monk seals, sea turtles, and albatross, which is a type of bird, they go to nest and to feed their babies. So it's a really special place, and it needs a lot of protecting. So that's a place where I've always felt very called to, and love anytime we can get up there and do a cleanup or just be around the area.
It's been a while since I've been to Hawaii, but both of those beaches sound like luxurious paradises. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Hideki and Miss Mattos. You are both such amazing people, and I learned so much from you. I really hope that our school will be able to travel safely to Hawaii as planned this year. But if not, I know my family and I will be there again when it is safe, and I really want to volunteer and meet you in person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't wait. Hopefully you can see the water. I know it's a little sunny, but there's a preview of the ocean.
Well, that's it for A Change of the Chance, episode 11. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, and bye!